I have this wonderful story of my cousin, and he used to work in an office building, and he was just feeling miserable and down all the time. And then he went and got a job outside, and he goes, he feels so much better. He goes, I just worked out I'm solar powered. And I was like, we're all solar powered, but not everyone knows that yet. You've just figured it out. Actually, all these other parts of us, and it's not just in our head. Like, don't go shaming us for what's just in our head. It's just our emotions. It's actually a real physical change in our body. Like you, like so aligned. Like, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a mother and a wife first, and then I'm here to share the message of like women's bodies and hormones. I love that. So I call it the wild woman season of life. So now we go through these 4 seasons of life, and it's like you're now in the wild woman season.
Okay. Oh, haere mai, from my heart place to your heart place, Monique, to Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Thank you, Jakey. It's so lovely to be here. I'm so excited to see what comes up today.
Yeah, me too. And I was being reflective of how you and I connected, and it was about 3 years ago. In fact, it was 3 years ago. And I was creating a document. So I was educating others who were sharing the message around menstrual cycles. So we did a bit of a contra. You reviewed my document, and then you and I did a recording around menopause. And I just think it's full circle because tomorrow is my day of menopause. So I think it's just perfect timing. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So we talked about perimenopause, which is like the journey leading up to menopause, right?
Yeah.
And we had such a great chat. And now you're here, like you've arrived on tomorrow.
I made it.
Like,
Yeah.
have you got anything planned? Like this is an exciting milestone in life.
Oh, it's so interesting because that is usually my jam sandwich, is to make a big song and dance, but I'm feeling really more internal about it. I've got a couple of friends that we're going to meet and just have a wee circle, but it's different to what I thought, and I thought it was going to be big because I really did miss out on celebrating my menarche and menstruation and motherhood and my sexuality to until my perimenopausal journey. So I did actually think it was going to be a really big song and dance, but it's feeling more internal, more inner honoring than I expected. Yeah.
That's amazing. And the difference between what you thought it was going to be and what it actually feels like, I think that's the same for every single like transition that we go through as women, because we think that our daughter might want a really big song and dance at midnight, but actually she might just want like a lovely afternoon with her mum or something, like to tap into what she actually wants.
Yeah.
At each stage is so powerful. And there's no shoulds or coulds or woulds. Like it's just, what do you want right now and what's coming up for you?
I know, amazing, isn't it? And I guess that's probably my whole perimenopause journey was, I didn't think it was going to be this way. The dismantling and then the repairing and the remembering and the shedding and of course I'm no longer physically shedding. It's just so interesting how I'm no longer letting go, and I'm now bringing in who I want to grow with. It's a real conscious choice. So
Yeah.
yeah, I made it.
Do you feel like a new version of yourself? Like I often talk about the transition that you go through perimenopause and you reach menopause and you're like a whole new version of yourself. Does it feel like that for you right now?
Absolutely do. And I keep using the Māori word, roahine tanga, and which is, the second woman time. And I'm feeling more in line with that version of the transition than I do with the actual word menopause. So no, I absolutely do. I feel quite childlike, like I want to play, like a lot of play. I feel very brave and courageous. I feel more yin than yang. And I feel I can really honour those how yeses and those how nos, whereas in the past I was still quite kind of thinking of others and not so much putting myself first. But I feel like I'm putting myself more first. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So I call it the wild woman season of life. So now we go through these 4 seasons of life, and it's
Yeah.
like you're now in the wild woman season. It's like phase, and it feels like like women that I've talked to, they feel like that just agrees with them so much, and they just like when you're saying like the hell yeses and the hell lows, you just know yourself so much more. You know
Yeah.
what you want, you know what you're going to go and do, and there's not like this like you've left the mother phase behind now.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I keep reflecting back to about humans and whales being the only one that go through this evolution process. And it's just it's very liberating knowing that, I don't have to think about procreating anymore.
Yeah.
I actually don't have to think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Liberating.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. You've made it, Jackie. I want everyone like round of applause for Jackie. Like this
Yeah.
is just so amazing. Like it's so
Thank you.
special.
Yeah,
Time
thanks
in
so
life.
much. Yeah, yeah. And so I'm really, yeah, I'm really honoring the universe for this timing because it took us a little bit to kind of create
It
this,
did.
yeah, this date.
Yeah.
So there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool, eh?
Yeah. So special. So meant to be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I really want to introduce you, Monique, because that's how we knew each other, how we found each other, and we were both well, synchronicity back then too was that we were so passionate about other women hearing about these taboos
Yeah.
or tadas
Hmm.
and less taboos in the world. So I just really want to share with everyone, all the listeners, who Monique is. And so you're a dedicated wife to Farmer John and a mum to 4 free-range kids, and you live on a dairy farm in rural New Zealand. And you once felt constantly exhausted and overwhelmed, believing something was wrong with you. I can resonate with that. I remember that. It wasn't until you discovered the powerful influence of hormones on your life and things began to make sense, don't they?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
oh, what a secret. By focusing on balancing your hormones, you found a path to greater ease and well-being. And now, Monique, you coach other women through this transformative process, offering online coaching and a supportive sisterhood called Nourish, where they can naturally honour and celebrate hormones and improve their over well-being and health too. Hallelujah. A woman, I say.
Oh, thank you. I feel like you, like so aligned. Like this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a mother and a wife first, and then I'm here to share the message of like women's bodies and hormones and how we don't have to be on all the time, like so many of us like grow up to believe.
Yeah. Isn't it just so powerful once you remember the actual truth around this? And for my journey, like I was well into my perimenopausal journey. It was February 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And I was sharing space with some other women, and one of the women had just been through Red School, and she shared with me, and honestly, my jaw was hitting my chest, and I was like, holy. So all those years I thought I was going crazy. I wasn't.
That's right. Yeah, like such a shock. And then I find what happens after women do, I suppose we'll talk about it soon, but they
Mm,
then can feel really sad that they didn't know this information before and really like for the younger version of themselves that like life would have been so much easier if I had have known. And so they go through a bit of a grieving process.
yeah, massive. I did massive
Yeah.
grieving. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm curious if you could share with us like when did your jaw hit your chest, and when did you decide like me like actually I can't let this carry on. I've got to do something about this. When did that happen for you?
Yeah, I suppose like a little backstory. I always wanted to be a mother. So I'm the eldest child. I am so nurturing and loving. And all I wanted was to grow up and have this like this family, this massive family under one roof, like all together and loving. Like I was brought up. And so I went to university literally to find a husband, like no kidding. I went to university to find a man. I'm so blessed I found one. That God put one in front of me and he was open to being married young, bless him. So we got married, we had our first child, we conceived easily naturally, just an absolute blessing. And then we had our second child, and that's kind of when it all fell apart for me. I was like, something is wrong with me. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do all of the things that all my friends seem to be doing with their children? And I just feel exhausted all the time. I'm running around. I'm doing all the things that I saw my mum doing for us as a family, like putting 3 meals a day on the table, keeping the biscuit tins full. And I was like, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to like sort this out because I'm a bit of a high achiever. And so I'm going to fast. I'm going to like have green smoothies. I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to exercise a lot. I'm going to like wake up at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. I'm going to do all the things I can do to turn my energy back on. And pretty much what happened is that it just depleted me even more. So it wasn't until I found a book called Period Power, and she talked about the 4 seasons of the cycle and how we are not supposed to be on all the time. And it's honestly like, oh, it's not me. It's the system around me. It's the world. It's the way that I was raised. It's like society expecting me to be on all the time. And actually, my innate hormones, like it's not even just a mental thing with me. It was actually like a hormonal change through my cycle that I wasn't supposed to be high energy, achieving, productive, motivated, positive all the whole time. And it was like this whole weight, this was lifted off my shoulder, like, oh, okay, I'm not broken. It's not me. And then when I realized that, I tapped into my menstrual cycle and I really haven't looked back. Like it's influenced every single part of my life. I still, to this day, like I was still getting ready this morning going, oh man, like I know myself so well.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? Once I popped, I didn't stop. I just dived right in. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then even to this day, like when I'm around people or women who are still cycling, I'm like, oh, what part of your cycle are you? Because then I can honor them where they're at.
Yeah.
And I know my last bedside nursing role, I was a school nurse at a girls' school, and every time they walked in the door, I'm like, what part of your cycle are you at? And we now know like it's the fifth vital sign. So, but I used it as the first. And as soon as I could understand that, and it was really empowering because they would then ask that of their friends. So if they were in
Yeah.
different parts of their cycle, then of course you're going to have different energies. So
Yeah.
it's just so empowering, like rather than, and it's a beautiful way of actually really honoring and understanding your cycle. So not everyone needs to go to a course or read all the books that we all know I've read or
No.
listen to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
There's other ways of really understanding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened next?
Yeah, well, so then I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, right? Just like you. I wanted to tell everyone. And my family thought it was a little bit weird. So I got the iPad out one day and I was like drawing on the notes app or something. And I drew in the hormones and I like divided them into four. And I had my brother on one side and then I had an uncle on the other side. So two different generations of men right here. And they're looking over my shoulder and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. I get it. And so my uncle goes, I've got the answer. I know what to do. I just need two wives. So one's always in the energetic part of a cycle. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like right now, I'm trying to give you all this information. And then my brother on the other side, like so the next generation down, he's like, no, I don't just want two wives. I want four wives. So I've always got one in that middle part of the cycle. And I was like, you are the reason that we feel like the way that we do. It's you are expecting us to be on. That's the only version of us that you really love and want to bring out. And I said, there's actually all these other parts of us, and it's not just in our head. Like, don't go shaming us for it's just in our head. It's just our emotions. It's actually a real physical change in our body. And so that was about 4 years ago. So now all the time. So they're all married, happily married, and all the time we talk about it. Like, oh, my wife is in this part of the cycle, or she'll say, oh, I'm ovulating, or I'm about to get my period, and we all just know each other's cycle so well. And it's an amazing shift in our family from what used to be like super like a bit weird and like what's Monique on about to now like we got this like. We know how to
Yeah.
honor each of my sister-in-laws and my mum and everyone in this part of the cycle. It's just an incredible change.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, whenever I talk about menopause or perimenopause, I always say this is not about me. It's not about woman. This is about everyone. This is all society. This is not for you to tiptoe around us. This is for you to understand and celebrate the power that we have within us. So it's interesting that, and it's exciting that you've got this entire family that has embraced that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then what started happening? So then I was talking with my friends and everyone, and they said, oh, but why am I getting period pain? Or oh, why is my period so late? Or why haven't I had my period yet? Like, what's going on with my body? Or why I get really cranky around ovulation. And you talk about I should actually be really happy and I should be really energized. And I'm like, so there's actually one step before understanding your cycle. We actually need to balance your hormones first because you can't have this lovely, beautiful, like flow on cycle that you love until you've got your hormones under control. So when we
Mhm.
fix that, and then you're going to see this beautiful cycle of like ebb and flow of the hormones.
Isn't it amazing though? Like I was talking about the fifth vital sign, our menstrual cycle being the fifth vital sign. Like all those things are telling us, hey,
Yeah.
something's not in alignment. And I know it certainly happens in perimenopause, and it's it comes. I call them expressions. It comes with a migraine, or it comes with some emotion, or it comes with insomnia, or
Yeah.
whatever it comes with. It comes with an expression, and that's where we can start listening to our bodies. So
Yeah.
yeah. And so then when did it go from talking to your friends to actually launching like a website and
Yeah, yeah. So I had to go into some training first, so I actually knew what I was on about because I
yeah,
realized I couldn't
totally.
fix everyone's pain and stuff. So I went and did an intense women's hormone health certification, and
Mhm.
then I was like, this is such important information. Everyone needs to know this. So I started talking with my friends. They're like, you should make an Instagram page. I made an Instagram page, and then it started really website courses. Now I got a membership. Now I do one-on-one coaching, all of it.
Amazing. Oh, I love these pain to purpose stories. You're like you've when you've and it's just so beautiful, particularly when you actually start listening and understanding your body. And at Heart Place Hospital, we talk about caring for our carers, and this I see this a lot, and it happened to me as well. Like I didn't even have the understanding at times that I was needing to go to the bathroom or that I was hungry because
Mm.
I wasn't pausing enough to actually listen to my awe-inspiring body. It was giving me messages, and they're the real basic stuff, real basic
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But we've actually got this vessel that can speak to us, and we have this innate wisdom. Sure, we need the doulas and the stewards and the guides to support us through, who have had the pain and found your purpose, and then put these platforms out in place. So
Yeah.
what's it been like? You talked about how to begin with your family, like what is Monique up to? Like what's it been like putting it out into that kind of business concept? Because I mean a lot of business is quite masculine.
Yeah.
So putting out a very feminine business, feminine message into a masculine world, like what's that been like?
Yeah, do you know what? Women are so ready for it. So I was a little
Mm.
bit nervous to start with, but I
Mhm.
think probably 18 months ago, like it just took off. Everyone was so ready to hear this information. And even I was like, whoa, like what's going on? But women just like left, right, and center, so ready to lap this information up, so tired of being sick and tired all the time. They're ready to make the changes to feel better, and they realizing that the way that we're living our life isn't really that good anymore, and they love the simple message that you talked about like several times already. It just comes back to tuning into our body. Like you don't even need me to tell you what
Mhm.
you're supposed to feel at each phase in your cycle, but you just have to listen to your body. But we have to have these constant reminders. So you do need me to constantly remind you to look inside you and see what is like your body trying to tell you. Like, are you hungry? Do you need to go to the toilet? Are you tired? Do you need some water? Like, what is going on? And your body actually tells you if only we take that moment to step back and go, oh, what do I actually need? But we live such a fast-paced life.
I know, but it's everywhere though, isn't it? On billboards, even our menstrual product advertising
Yeah.
was very, we can do cartwheels. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't do a cartwheel, like, and we can
No.
wear white pants and all the things. What really interests me is because I'm raising two young women, so thankfully, I did grieve discovering this late for me, but
Mm.
thankfully I discovered it in time to be able to share it with them. So they've been to many of my workshops in the past, and I know that seeds have been planted. And I was a school nurse, and I've still got a daughter still at school, and I've advocated a lot at schools. And that's where I'm finding it's still very slow. Like
Mm.
for me, when young women came in when they were menstruating, I would put them to bed. We'd weighted blankets and an eye mask
Mm.
and a heat pack and essential oils, put a little crystal
Mm.
next to them and set the time with a bit of music and then give them a herbal cup of tea once they got back
Mm.
up. And as they went off to sort of rest, I said to them, you know, have a listen, have a see what comes in, let me know what dreams come in, and just plant that seed that it's a really powerful, potent time. Um, and I found that through doing that, that love and compassion piece, I actually didn't see them on a regular basis each month. They discovered that they had that within them. And so when I spoke to other school nurses, they're like, "Oh, I don't have time for that." And I'm like, "Actually, I got time back.
Yeah.
I got time back because I was empowering them." Um, and and then I've been advocating for lots of other schools because they don't even have space for young women to actually to rest. A safe, soft land for them to actually rest. It's still very much either medicate you and go home or crack on. And I know because I was monitoring it, I was able to support them to get back into learning, where a lot of them would have gone home. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
but I also think, without more of us mothers um, taking on this information and sharing it with our daughters, that things will change. Are you seeing any
Yeah.
change in that area?
So I'm not working with young girls at the moment, but I'd love to ask you, like, how did the girls receive that care that you gave them when you lay them down and put a weighted blanket on them? Like, how did they receive that?
Yeah, no, they loved it. They
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah. And even the space, it was a wellness room. It wasn't a sick bay. And the same with my daughters now, like when they're menstruating, it's or premenstrual, then I just shift my energy towards them and create some nourishing soft lands for them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's so
yeah,
lovely. So I've
yeah.
done a training called a First Moon Circle where I'm trained and qualified to teach girls that are 9 to 12 about the menstrual cycle, like kind of stepping in before they even get their periods to tell
Mhm.
them or to educate them, empower them to know what actually is normal for a
Yeah.
period and how you can care for yourself throughout the cycle and what to expect. And so I cannot wait to bring that into my community. But it's so well needed. But as my kids are like 8 and 6 and 5 and 2, like I got a little bit
Yeah.
much on in my life right now to hold space for those girls. But I can't wait to step in because I think it's so needed. And I think because the mums are hearing about the information that we're telling them like now, I think
Mhm.
they would also like value someone coming in and educating their children because even they know that the school system is not educating them enough, but the school system doesn't really have enough capacity to go as deep as what the girls really need at the moment. So yeah, I think there's lots of like scope and space there for someone to step in everywhere, all around the world, really.
Totally. Oh, 100%. And I love hearing because mums will tell me now, like with who have sort of more preteen girls, they're like, oh, they're really excited to get their first bleed. And I'm like,
It's
yay,
a, what a
same.
shift. That is such
Yeah,
a cool shift from like, oh,
yeah,
I don't
totally.
want to get it. I don't want to go through it to like imagine like them being excited. That is such a huge
Yeah,
shift. Wow.
yeah. And even last year, I got a message from one of the young women that I'd um, been at the school where she's like, Nurse Jackie, I got my first bleed. I had to let you know. And I was like, oh, darling, thank you. Congratulations. Welcome. Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, and so what does your membership look like? What do you offer your members and can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking before about we need to balance our hormones before we even like can have this beautiful, lovely cycle. Some women
Mhm,
are like their hormones are okay, so they can feel the lovely 4 phases of the cycle. But what I was
mhm.
finding is that most women are having like either feeling really terrible around ovulation, or they've got irregular periods, or they've got really painful or heavy periods, and that to me is like that we need to go deep as to why that is happening in your body. And so what we tend to do, and even like and doctors will do as well, they want to treat the symptom that's going on. So they want to treat the heavy bleeding, or they want to treat the migraine, or they want to treat the like whatever you're getting ovulation that's making like turning you like gut pain or gut dysbiosis or something. They treat that. But actually when you come to me in my membership, I want to go really deep. So why is that happening? Like why is that happening? So why is your gut displaced in the first place? Or why have you getting those heavy periods? Like let's not just treat that the symptom, let's actually go really deep. And it all comes back like every single time either to like an imbalance in your stress hormone, so your cortisol hormone, or your blood sugar hormone, or there's some kind of like mineral imbalance. I do a hair test and we go deep into the hair and the cellular level and see what minerals are or toxins are imbalanced in there. And that throws the whole body off. And then the last sign that we see is the heavy periods and things. So we've got to go right back to the start and hear what's actually happening. And that's when we see like sustainable, like long-term pain-free periods.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I would talk to young women about seeding. So actually using seeding through this cycle. Also look back kind of what was happening 3 months previous to
Yeah.
that period. And often they would have been sitting exams or something like that. So we could identify kind of that stress level there. But the number one thing I always prescribe, and I do a lot of referring to other clinicians, is rest. Like I put rest at the very, very top, which is it's a really challenging one because often when we're parenting, we're like wanting to keep our kids busy so that they don't get into trouble or get bored or anything like that. So we're keeping them busy, and then to suggest rest is really challenging, and that's really challenging for our young people too because
Yeah.
they haven't really had any downtime and they haven't seen others have downtime. So I think it's important too for us to model
Resting.
the resting as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, but
Um,
what does rest even look like? Like a rest is not scrolling on your phone, sitting on the couch. Like
mm.
that doesn't count as rest.
Nice. Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. And I think we talked about innate nature and innate wisdom. I think it's back into nature.
Yeah.
Pausing in nature. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally my medicine. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways with perimenopause, now my menopause journey is actually my places that bring me joy that they've reduced down to and it's pretty much nature, down to
Yeah.
nature, creativity and nature. So just as
Yeah.
as I'm humanly designed to do. So
Yeah. But
um,
who doesn't feel good after going for a walk in the bush? Like no one comes away from that going, oh, I'm so stressed.
I know, right? I know, right? Oh, just beautiful energy.
Yeah.
My day starts with walking on the beach, and I swim in the ocean every morning, all year.
Wow.
And I really believe it's attributed to having I'm going to say smooth. I'm going to say survivable or um, interesting perimenopausal journey. Can't quite think of the word. It's been a it's been a
Yeah.
ride.
A transition, a ride.
Without a doubt. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely magical, and it's those I really believe it doesn't have to cost a lot of money or a
Yeah.
lot of time for us to actually navigate. I think navigate's probably the right word, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have
Um,
this wonderful story of my cousin, and he used to work in an office building, and he was just feeling miserable and down all the time. And then he went and got a job outside, and he goes, he feels so much better. He goes, I just worked out I'm solar powered. And I was like, we're all solar powered, but not everyone knows that yet. You've just figured it out. Like, spread the message and tell everyone that we're all solar powered. Like, we need to get our energy from outside and from the sun. No one's worked it out yet.
Totally. Yeah, I say we like pot plants.
Yeah,
We need the water, the soil,
yeah,
the sun. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I think something that's really, really, really supported my journey has been high dose vitamin D because, it's winter, so it's a little
Yeah.
challenging. High dose vitamin D and magnesium for sure.
Mm.
And and then I use the yam cream as well. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they've really super supported me get to navigate through this journey. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
And leaning on support's okay. Like we don't have to get through this alone. Like it's definitely like beneficial to seek out things that help us get through. Like we're not
oh,
supposed to suffer through
oh,
this time.
totally. I say to people, if it's a difference between going to jail and not going to jail, choose what you need to not go to jail.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell my women to get balanced hormones before they go into perimenopause. Like, what if we could go in there and we're not exhausted and we're not depleted? Like, it's going to make it a little bit easier because most women like go in and they are exhausted already.
Uh, with perimenopause, if you haven't looked through and unpacked,
Yeah.
that's when it will happen. And no one is immune to that. And I often hear women say, "Oh, I've breezed through menopause," and I just go, "Did you?"
You just forgot.
um, and so yeah, it's quite the ride. Oh well, it's so lovely having a fellow kindred in this journey of highlighting the power of the feminine and the absolute power of our rites of passage. So menarche, menstruation, motherhood, our sexuality, menopause, mature woman, and then death. We've got these amazing rites of passage that these evolutionary processes that we can't avoid. None of them we can avoid.
Yeah, they're all inside us. And if we just keep coming back to what do you feel on the inside, like that, and that's okay.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to end just with, if you want to share with our listeners what's coming up in your heart place right now and how people can find you.
Oh, lovely. I think you've said it so many times, it always comes back to just tuning into your inside, like, and what's happening on the inside of you. And that's okay to feel like that. And there is some truth to that. And if we like keep ignoring that, that's when problems start to happen. So if you're feeling really cross or really grumpy, like to tune into that, let it happen, like let it out, go for a run, go for a swim, go for a big yell on the deck or whatever, and get it out. Because when we don't start, or when we start to like tune that out and not listen to that, that's when problems start to arise. So it sounds really simple that things like your period pain can be linked all the way back to how you're feeling or how you're not expressing yourself. It's 100% true. It's so true. So just keep on tuning into yourself, give yourself permission to listen to your body. And if you wanted to connect with me, I've just opened up some more one-to-one spots to go through my bespoke hormone coaching, or find me on Instagram. I'm all over there every day. So that's where the best place. I'm at Monique Dickson _.
Beautiful. Oh, thanks so much, but it's so lovely to connect in with you and with such synchronicity of my Rua Hine Tanga time, and look forward to sharing this with our listeners.
Yay, thanks so much for having me, Jackie.
You're most welcome. Talk to you soon.